Welcome to the Christmas edition of Fast Forward. I'm very proud to introduce our oldest and most unique interviewee to date, Dr. Michael Fleet. Welcome.
And thank you for inviting me.
No problem at all. It is absolutely my pleasure. I'm going to read you a headline. Medal for Man Who Mapped Antarctic. That was the headline in the Newbury Weekly News in 1972. That man was you, Dr. Michael Fleet. So I'm very excited to have you here today for you to tell us about how you were awarded the Polar Medal. You went to Buckingham Palace to get the Polar Medal for your work on the British Antarctic Survey. Tell us, why and how did you manage to get that medal?
Well, to put it very simply, I finished my degree in Southampton in geology. I was looking for a job, and one of the jobs I applied for was with the British Antarctic Survey. And in due course, I got the phone call and the interview and the medical, and I was taken on. And not long after that, I was on board the Royal Research Ship John Biscoe, sailing out of Southampton down to the Antarctic.
So what did you do, or did everybody that went to the Antarctic, did everyone get a medal? Is that how it worked?
It did in the very first beginnings when Scott and Co went down south. As time went on, so many people were going south, relatively speaking, that I think they decided it had to be rationed a bit. And so by the time I went down in 1961, I was 61, 64, they were down to 12 medals being awarded every 4 years.
So you spent 2.5 years in the Antarctic. And what was it about the work that you did in the Antarctic that awarded you that medal?
I don't know for sure, but just talking to people and so on, I can have a bit of a guess. One was I did 2 years. Another was I did a lot of major sledging, which is the tough part of it. At the time, there were quite a few other people around doing other jobs. A lot of them were just stayed in base because of the work they were doing. They might have been studying ionospherics and just had instruments which they read, or meteorology. And so that was a rather easier life. And the people like myself, the surveyors, geophysicists, they had to go out and go to their work, which meant sledging. And of course, 4 months sledging is quite arduous, to put it.
So you had so that's very interesting, because obviously we're in a world now where remote working is the thing that everybody is doing. But we're talking 60 years ago, your work was incredibly remote, and probably the most remote I can think of. So where was your office, and how isolated actually were you?
I had a very small office in the base hut, which I was hardly there to use it, but the real office was a tent, a 3-man pyramid tent, and that's what I lived in for the 4 months.
That's what you lived in and worked in?
And well, the work was going out and getting to all the bits of rock that I could get to. And of course, being in the Antarctic, a lot of rocks were covered in ice anyway, so there weren't all that many, but that was my job, to get to them, record what they were and identify them and so on, get samples.
So your trips to work were on this occasion was 4 months. How far away were you, and in what conditions did you face to get to your office?
Okay, well, it was about 300 miles south or north of base. I haven't explained, I was stayed at two bases. One was Hope Bay at the north of the Antarctic Peninsula, sledged south from there. And the other one was Stonington Island, which was much farther south, and I sledged north to get to the same area. And the
So
reason
you
for that,
sledged for 400 miles with husky dogs to get to your office.
just to get to the office.
Wow.
But
And
then
tell me about the conditions that you faced.
well, the conditions, I just say it took about 3 weeks to do that distance anyway.
Wow.
So commuting to work took 3 weeks.
Wow. Oh, gosh. 3-week
And
commute.
back. Yeah, so,
Wasn't very crowded, though, I don't suppose.
no, we didn't see anyone else.
No.
Not quite true, but we did link up with another sledge party, but basically, no, we didn't see anyone else.
Uh-huh.
So the conditions, well, it depended on the time of year. Half of it was done in the depth of winter, and the other half in the summer. In the depths of winter, we had temperatures down to minus 40 centigrade, or minus 40 Fahrenheit, if you like, they're numerically equal.
Bit chilly then.
Those were the coldest temperatures we had. We had very strong winds and blizzards. Once you get the wind, the snow is whipped up and you can't see a thing.
When you say strong winds, how
strong winds, well, it was at least 100 miles an hour.
at least?
And we had, at base, it was recorded on the base anemometer, because it was a Met station, 177 miles an hour.
107.
That was the year before I was there. I didn't, but they had winds of similar strength. And they were quite common.
How did you survive in winds like that?
Well, you just hunker down. You get in your tent and make sure it's well guided, and you just stay there till the wind stops.
There's a picture behind you.
Oh yes.
Yeah. What is it? I presume that's of the Antarctic.
It's actually a painting, and it's of I call it my mountain. It's called Fleet Point.
So why and how is there a mountain called Fleet Point?
But it's basically the same as for the polar medal. But the reasons, I worked in the air, did the difficult sledging work. And then what I didn't mention before is when I got back to the UK, we were contracted to spend 3 months writing up our results, minimum. But then there's the option to spend 2 years and write it up. And I did a PhD and a British Antarctic Survey scientific report, which was published.
Right.
So I did that. And I think that's why I qualified for that.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to interview you, Dad.
Oh,
You are my hero. Thank you very much for sharing your story, and I'm sure the British Antarctic Survey will love to hear about this as well. Merry Christmas.
yeah, and the same to you. It's quite a pleasure talking about it.